challenges we face with the City of Orange Traffic Committee is trying to get the flow of traffic through, particularly through the CBD areas. We've got high volumes of traffic now, probably more than we've ever had before. You've got roundabouts which are great for moving traffic, but they're certainly not pedestrian friendly. And the council carried out a pedestrian access mobility plan a couple of years ago to try and highlight some hotspots and some better ways of getting pedestrian mobility through the city. And a lot of it does get down to common sense. Unfortunately, if the drivers are driving without common sense, there's not a great deal you can do. You can have all sorts of speed limits. You can have 40k, 50k zones. But if somebody comes through these roundabouts at 70 or 80, which is a reasonable speed on the highway, but accentuated here in the centre of town, if somebody comes through here at 70 or 80 and they think they're going through the chicanes at Silverstone, then it's going to cause problems.
There is, as you say, there's the number of industries that are growing in the city, which include the mining industry, which bring a lot of outside contractors to the city, and certainly in our efforts to create a better flow through the city by putting roundabouts in, we've created an issue for ourselves, which has probably meant that it's not very pedestrian friendly. And what we're trying to do with the CBD is to keep it beautiful and have people within the surrounding suburbs of Orange walk to the CBD, especially in the better months when they can do that. But it's not very pedestrian friendly, so the downside of creating a better traffic flow through the city has actually meant that more vehicles are using particular parts of different streets, which predominantly seems to be Byng Street, and we've made it easier for them to get to one end of town to the other by putting roundabouts right through there. So now we've got to come up with a strategy that allows the pedestrians to get around the CBD much safer, rather than trying to get to traffic lights to cross the road. So we're looking at, because CBDs roundabouts create a better traffic flow for the driver, and it's not really, you really can't put pedestrian crossings as they have done in Bathurst right on the roundabout, because the driver coming off the roundabout, especially if you're not a local, not aware that there's a pedestrian crossing there, all of a sudden you're watching all the cars and then you're coming off the roundabout and there's a person crossing the road, and by law you've got to give way to them quickly. I think the only answer to our position in Orange is to have some sort of safe crossing in the middle of the street. The old days of teaching your children to go to the corner to look left and right isn't necessarily so when it comes to roundabouts. It's far safer to go to the middle of the street where you can see all of the traffic and cross in the middle. The issue, and Peter will probably know better than I because he's the chairman of traffic, that it's not really the jurisdiction of council. That we've got to liaise with the RTA, especially when it comes to pedestrian crossings. When it becomes to pedestrian refuges, I think that comes under a different benefit.
Look, it's very difficult to pigeonhole one form of bad driver over another, like we're talking about before, contractors and tradesmen. You can't say they're all bad, you can't say all P-plate drivers are bad. You could have a 75-year-old granny who's a bad driver and she's not immune if she's a bad driver. And similarly, we've got problems with pedestrians. It gets back to common sense as well. We can have more pedestrian crossings in town, and we have to look at solutions to try and get safer crossings for pedestrians. But Summer Street's a great example. We've got controlled pedestrian and vehicular traffic every 20 or 30 metres with traffic lights up there. People still cross mid-block. I think you need a solution whereby an education program where people stop crossing mid-block against the lights and do walk to where there are signified crossings.
Dropping the speed limit sort of doesn't help pedestrians as such. Like, it still comes back to having the facilities to allow them to get across the road safely. At the end of the day, Peter's correct. It all comes down to the drivers having some courtesy for the pedestrians, knowing that it's not easy to get across a roundabout, and the pedestrians also being very diligent about the traffic coming off the roundabout as well. At the end of the day, it seems to be that some drivers think that it's a race to get on the roundabout. First on the roundabout has right away, and in doing so they pick up a little bit of speed, they're watching the other cars. They're not really. There's no real opportunity for pedestrians to get across the road. So really, again, it's a bit of courtesy on everybody's, on both sides. But at the end of the day, we as council have to come up with a solution that makes it much safer for pedestrians.
Is it going to get worse than this, do you think?
I believe. Well, we're a growing city. We're prosperous. Certainly, the traffic will grow. It may, especially around the roundabout in William Street. Hopefully, once the Northern Distributor is, when that's finished, there won't be that traffic being directed as much down William Street. But certainly, getting across to east and west of Orange, most of the traffic goes via Byng Street and/or Dalton Street. Majority via Byng Street, because we've sort of closed off in the early parts around East Orange there. The only way you can get to East Orange from, say, Summer Street is you have to go around to McLaughlin Street. So everyone takes the least path of resistance, so they avoid the lights and they come down via the roundabouts. The RTA, I imagine, would have concerns about putting in pedestrian crossings because it hinders the flow of traffic. That may be a catch-22 situation. You either go via Summer Street where there's lights, or you go via Byng Street where there's pedestrian crossings. It's just the pains of a growing city.
We might get lucky. If the traffic gets worse, we'll be gridlocked like Parramatta Road, so the traffic will be immovable. So nobody
you can run in and out between the cars.
Nobody's likely to get hurt. But I think in reality, dropping the speed limit is not the answer, because the speed limit's there for people who obey the laws, and the greater amount of collisions are probably caused by people who are breaking the laws. As we said a minute ago, the speed limit in town's currently 50. Certainly, if you get hit at 50, it's going to hurt you, could possibly kill you. But if people are going to 70 and 80, gives you no chance. And somebody's going 70 and 80 in town, they're breaking the law. So lowering the speed limit is only for the responsible drivers.